Hello and welcome to Dialogue. As China gradually lifts the COVID measures and reopens both domestically and externally, expectations are high that the world's second largest economy will bounce back with strong growth in 2023. At the same time, we are already seeing a return to normal in restaurants, travel and tourism and other sectors of society as infection rates are stabilizing in the cities first hit by Omicron variant in December. So what policies is China introducing to facilitate economic growth? What are the projections for the country's economy in 2023? And what will the recovery of the second largest economy mean for the rest of the world? To help us understand these questions, I'm joined by Dr. Jonathan Choi Koon-shum, chairman of the Sanhua Group. That's our topic. I'm Xu Qinduo. Welcome to the discussion, Jonathan. We know that China has been readjusting its COVID-19 policy. That has led to rising expectation of economic recovery in 2023. So what do you see as the prospect for the economic growth this year?
I just feel that for 2022, it was not a good year because of the pandemic all over the world. And in China, I think for a few months, it's very strict control of the COVID. Therefore, the economy was not very good at that time. But in 2023, as you know that China has completely opened for the COVID policy. And people can travel freely internally, and they're going outside already. Therefore, I just feel that in the first 2 quarters may not be very good, cannot be rebounds very fast. But I think gradually it will become much better in the latter part of the next half year. And I just feel that among the whole world, the developed countries, I think China could perform well on the third and the fourth quarter.
On the third and the fourth quarter. So, so we're expecting the lingering of the pandemic probably for a few months more to come,
yes.
Right?
Yeah. Because as you know that, because China has the open door policy now, and we understand that the pandemic is spreading out in the various parts of China, and the people are traveling outside, but there are restrictions from different countries. They want China's pandemic can be under control before they come in and out of China. The policy is open, but the COVID is still there. Therefore, I just feel that in the first quarter, I think it takes time to come back. The second half, and then maybe picking up, and then I think at the latter half of the year, we'll pick up again.
So we are looking at the real change probably starting from the second half of this year. You know, along with this loosening of those measures of COVID-19, we are seeing also relaxation of exchanges, inside China and outside China. You do see, outbound travelers and inbound travelers would find it much easier starting from January the 8th for people to visit China or for the Chinese tourists to go outside to other parts of the world. So in what way, that kind of relaxation will contribute to China's economic recovery? And I guess, if you look at other countries, for example, Thailand and other countries, they are embracing the coming arrival of the Chinese tourists.
You are correct. I think most of the country, they welcome Chinese tourists and Chinese businessmen to go there. But some countries, they are a little bit concerned. Therefore, they put some measures to restrict our citizens going there, have the PCR test and something like that. For example, like in Japan, like in Europe, some countries. I just feel that when everything go back to normal, for example, 1 or 2 months time, if everything is okay, I think all the countries welcome Chinese tourists to go. Firstly, for tourism. Secondly, more importantly, is the trade and investment. And at the same time, I just feel that at the same time, they also would like to go to China. But there is a big concern at the COVID at the moment. But for 1 or 2 months later, if everything is okay, I think many foreign investors and tourists will go to China in the future.
So Jonathan, can we say here is a new normal? Remember, well, that pandemic is yet to be over, but for every society, every country, they are now choose to be open. I'm open to business, open to visitors, open to trade, because we have to keep the borders open because of the sake of economic development because of other considerations. So we probably need to adapt to the new reality. Still outbreaks, but at the same time, life goes on.
I fully agree with you. There's one happening in Hong Kong, Actually, we have very strict policy on the COVID. But later on, with the border with the mainland, of course, we have to follow the China policy. But at the same time, we opened to the other parts of the world. Therefore, Hong Kong can travel freely to different countries. And I think we have a very good result. And now, China mainland have a similar policy and is open to all over the world. I think for 1 or 2 months, maybe we need some adjustment because there's still COVID in China. They worry. But 1 or 2 months later, like other parts of the world, everything go back to normal. Therefore, I expect after the first quarter, everything will go back to normal. People would like to go into China, and Chinese people can freely travel all over the world. Then I think the whole world will go back to normal.
Well, not long ago, there's a senior economic conference here in Beijing where the government has stressed that China will ensure steady growth, employment, and prices in 2023 with a proactive fiscal policy and a prudent monetary policy. Tell us, in layman's term, what does that mean? How will the Central Economic Work Conference, the first major economic meeting held by the party's new leadership, set the tone for this year's economic expansion?
I think for the Central Economic Work Conference, it's very important for China. It set the tone that now the new normal is we go back to the economics. Therefore, we want the business to come back to China because it is very important for the GDP growth of China and the situation in China. And for the conference, I think most important, firstly, they need to increase the income of the local people, the rural area and not the city, so that they have income, so that they can spend. Domestic consumption is very important, firstly. Secondly, attract foreign investment because during the COVID control, some of the foreign businessmen, they feel, it's under control. They would like to leave China and have second thought. But now, China's open again. There's opportunity. They would like to attract the foreign capital, come back to China. And then thirdly, they understand that state control on the property market, it is correct. But if it's too tight, if the property market is affected, there will be some problem. Therefore, they will relax the policy and also put more attention to the green economy and also put more attention to tech and the science and technology innovation. That is the tone of the Central Economic Work Conference.
Well, Jonathan, there's an understanding, people say, it seems like the Chinese government will refocus on economic growth, the practice probably before the COVID-19, 2019, before 2019, let's say, because over the past 3 years, obviously for local governments, the number one, let's say, yardstick for their performance is about their zero COVID efforts, whether they are successful or not. Now, with the shifting of the government policy, obviously they are shifting their priority. The priority now is about economic expansion.
Yeah, correct. I think the decision completely changed. Therefore, I just feel that the foreign investors and also even the local businessmen, they're very happy about that. We understand that COVID is important. But at the same time, economy is also important. For the local people, for the citizen, they would like to get more income and then spend more money. That is the local consumption. And at the same time, for the private enterprises, they have opportunity to invest, to make some money locally. And for the foreign investor, they knew that China is a huge market, 1.4 billion people. If the market is free as before, then they will put more investment into China. Therefore, the economic growth will come back. Therefore, I think focusing on economics, I think every people will be very happy.
So, Jonathan, I think here is at least you can see an important message for foreign investors now. I remember during the past 3 years, many people were talking about, China is isolating itself, China is isolating itself from the rest of the world. Now, with the recent changes, we can see clearly the Chinese determination to remain open and to continue with the reforms is as firm as before.
I just feel that the foreign countries are very surprised that the policy can change suddenly overnight, because at the beginning it was so strict. People is a bit don't know what we can do because it's so strict policy. But now the whole country is open, same as other developed countries. Therefore, I just feel that we are same as others. Therefore, they feel it's easier for them to travel and go to invest in China in the future. Therefore, they feel that very soon everything will go back to normal.
Well, let's take a look at the different sectors of the economy. For example, the property sector, which accounts for nearly 30% of China's GDP. Jonathan, tell us, in what way it's important to the overall economic growth. And also, if you look at the property sales by value, for example, in 2022, it plunged more than 26% in the first 11 months. And the investment also fell by 9.8%. Obviously, there's a big concern, I would say. So over the past few months, you do see the central government has stepped up these efforts to optimize, to improve the property market situation, and also introduce new measures, for example, to ease the credit crunch in the sector. Are those measures enough, or announced so far sufficient to drive, to achieve a turnaround?
I just feel that in the past years, China has relied too much on the property, on the percentage of GDP growth. Therefore, the price has been kept on pushing up. As President Xi said that the property, especially the home, are for living, not for speculation. But many investors, they buy many houses for speculation. That is not really so healthy. And also the borrowing are from the banks. Therefore, you see in 2022, last year, the Chinese government tightened the policy on the financing on the property market. Therefore, the sales dropped dramatically. I was told that more than 30% is a big drop in the sales. Therefore, it created a lot of problems. What problems? Because the developers borrow money from the bank and then build the building and pre-sell it. But the building was not completed. It's only half finished and no more financing, and they cannot deliver to the buyer. But the bank has the financing. That will create a big problem. Therefore, I was told that in the top 100 developers in China, almost 80 to 90% were in trouble. And if that happened, so how to solve the half-completed houses is a big problem for the banks, for the buyers, for the developers, and also the construction company. Therefore, the Chinese government have no choice. They have to take some measures to soften the problem. Now, I think the first problem we need to do it is the confidence. Because why the buyer want to buy the property? They feel that the price may come up. But now, so many problems is happening. They cannot buy the house, cannot get the completed house, and the price may come down. Therefore, they don't buy. If the banks do not feel that it is safe to get back the money, they don't do the financing, then what's happened? Then it creates a very complicated issue. Therefore, the central government now would like to relax the policy. They let the developers, of course, the good developers, to issue bonds for the fundraising, equity financing, getting money, relax the borrowing from the banks. And I think all this is good to hopefully to complete the half-completed building. That's one thing. But how to let the property market to be as good as before, I don't think it's easy. We cannot expect a V-shaped rebounds. I think maybe slowly it can be a little bit better. I just feel that how to complete all the half-finished building. Secondly, how to sell all the stock in hand. That is not easy. Where the money come from? It's from the banks. The bank is also worrying. Therefore, I just feel that take step by step to soften the situation now. And one recommendation is we cannot rely only on the property sector to let the GDP growth. We need to put more emphasis on green transformation, tech and science and technology and innovation, all this new way of growth.
Well said, Jonathan. Obviously, there is a political will we see from the central government, and that is they are going to revive this sector because this sector is important to the economy. At the same time, they did introduce some measures, but obviously, as you pointed out, it seems like not enough probably to prop up this sector, at least for now. It requires more work to do. What else do you suggest the government or, the sector may start to, let's say, to deal with some of the potential problems or to ease out the stress or the pressure here. And so long term, there will be a healthy development.
I think the government must have some thing in mind. I just feel that the first thing we have to solve is the half completed building first, because the buyer paid the money already. They cannot get the houses. It will create a social problem. If it cannot be completed, the banks cannot get back the financing. It will create a chain reaction that is no good for the economy. And we just feel that relaxing the credit policy, let the developers finish the building, let them issue bonds or equity financing to complete it first. But in the long term, do not encourage the property developers to grow as big as possible. That's not the way to do the business. We need to see the real demand. President Xi make it very clear that the demand is the home for the people, not to build many houses for speculation. That's not the case. Therefore, we need to go for other sectors. For example, like technology innovation, green financing, green projects, the carbon neutral, carbon peak projects. That is our goal, and that's what we have to do in the future.
Well, you mentioned earlier about the confidence in the market, in the private sector in particular. So while China is maintaining its path of reform and opening up, the government did mention about stimulating this confidence, in consumption in the private sector for further development. Do you see there's a rising confidence in the market as a result of the readjustment of the policies?
I think one point the government mentioned in the Central Economic Work Conferences, they put more emphasis on the private enterprises. I think for the economy, I'm from Hong Kong. We feel that market economy is very important. Who play an important role there? It must be private enterprises, private businessmen. If the private businessmen have confidence, they'll put their money in. Otherwise, only SOE, only government put the money in. It really doesn't work, and it's government money. Government means it's the citizens' money. But private enterprises' confidence is most important. How to create a better environment to tell them that there's opportunity there. Your investment is safe. Don't let the investors say, everybody say that, outside world is better. They bring the money and bring the people and all go to developed countries. That's no good. Therefore, how to attract them to stay in China mainland and then invest there so that the economy will build again. Because I'm from Hong Kong, I'm from the world, freest economy in the world. We know market economy is most important.
Well, Jonathan, you mentioned about Hong Kong. Hong Kong reopened its border with the mainland on January the 8th. So, after that, probably, it's freer for travelers back and forth, between the two places there. So how will the reopening help contribute to Hong Kong's economic recovery?
I think firstly is the confidence. Hong Kong and the mainland, especially GBA, cannot be separated. We are under one country. We know each other. We have been investing a lot in the GBA, in Shenzhen, in Guangzhou, in all these cities. But in the past 3 years, we cannot go there. Therefore, some of the private companies feel that even the checks they sign, they courier to Hong Kong and sign and send it back. It doesn't work. That's not the way of business. We just feel that once the border is open, I think firstly, many tourists in and out. They will go into China, mainland, GBA, and also they'll come to Hong Kong. It will help for the domestic consumption. For example, the hotels, tourism business, retail, restaurants, all the whole situation will come back again. Secondly is the businessmen, because most of the Hong Kong companies, they have investment in GBA. They go back to the factory, they go back to the premises to see the business, then they're very happy. It is so-called the full integration of GBA. Secondly is the GBA businessmen, they also have investment in Hong Kong, and through Hong Kong, they go international. Therefore, if we open the border, there are so many business opportunity for the big businessmen, for the SME, and also for the local people. I think every people will be happy if the border is open in January.
I think you also mentioned basically here, if there's economic recovery in Hong Kong, because Hong Kong is a major financial hub and innovation center, obviously it will also help with the economic recovery in the mainland, in particular with the GBA, the Greater Bay Area.
I fully agree with you because Hong Kong, as a position by the central government for 8 centers, the most important, I think, is the World Financial Center. Of course, next is trade and also the shipping center. And now we are also the International Technology and Innovation Center. All this is important for Hong Kong to fully integrate with GBA and the mainland. And firstly, after the opening of the border, I think first thing we can benefit is the convention. You see, Hong Kong is the convention center in the whole world. And because of the COVID, the expeditors and the visitors, buyers from China can come in, and the overseas buyers also can come in. Therefore, we have lost a lot of opportunities. Once the border is opened, then we can welcome all the buyers from all over the world, including the mainland, to come back. That's one thing. Secondly is financial services, which is most important for Hong Kong. Offshore renminbi. We are talking about renminbi internationalization. Therefore, we need to use Hong Kong as the financial hub to gather all these offshore renminbi. And we are talking about more coming is digital renminbi, cross-border transactions. And also, there are so many big investors from China mainland would like to come to Hong Kong for wealth management. Hong Kong is good for wealth management. They have money, they want to manage the funds, they come to Hong Kong. Therefore, on the financial side, there are so many things that we can do. Other than that, Hong Kong is strong in R&D of science and technology. That's why the central government positioned Hong Kong to be the international innovation center. And we have 5 top 100 universities, which are strong in R&D. We have our university, a cyber port, and science park to attract many talents. The international talents come to Hong Kong, and then through Hong Kong, we can work closely with Shenzhen, Guangzhou, and GBA. That's the way that we gather all the talent together with the GBA. And besides that, we are talking about the green transformation in the GBA, green financing, green projects, carbon peak and carbon neutral projects, many, many things. It all can be done through Hong Kong with the GBA. Therefore, I can say many, many things that once the border is open, when the situation is back to normal, Hong Kong can fully cooperate with GBA. And one more important point is we go together international. You know, we're talking Belt and Road. We are talking RCEP. All these big things, if the door is open, all these big Chinese enterprises come to Hong Kong. Together, we go outside, go international. And also at the same time, Hong Kong is an international trade and financial center. We attract foreign partners come to Hong Kong, and together we go back to the GBA. Therefore, it's two-way traffic.
It's a role of bridge and a critical role for Hong Kong to play in the Chinese economic growth over there. Speak of this, interconnectedness. We know China as the world's second largest economy. If you say for the second half or even earlier, if there's a strong economic comeback in China, that obviously will help with the rest of the world because of the close relationship of the Chinese economic performance and the rest of the world. China is also the largest trading nation there.
I fully agree with you. Now we have to look at the spread of the pandemic at the moment in China mainland. If it can be back to normal as soon as possible, hopefully in the first quarter, then the second quarter, people will continue to come back to China and the economy will come up. If it cannot be under control, it takes a longer time. Therefore, I think it all depends. The policy is done already. It's open door policy. But the point is another thing. In the past, it's restricted COVID policy. Now we have no COVID policy, but they worry about the spread of the COVID. But the spread of COVID, according to our experience in Hong Kong, it takes only maybe 1 month, 2 months, we're back to normal. Therefore, hopefully, within the first quarter, everything is back to normal. Then I think the foreign investors and tourists, they want to go back to China. They're waiting for that.
Well, Jonathan, if you look at some of the potential challenges, people are talking about there are some existing uncertainties. For example, what about the consumption? People are worried about whether the consumption will remain weak for quite some time. So that might become, sort of like a stumbling block for economic recovery.
I just feel that what we need to do firstly is to get the business, the economy to come back, because for the consumption, it related to the income of the people. Because in the past 3 years we have COVID, and many lost their job or cut the salary or something like that. If they don't have enough income, how can they spend the money? Therefore, firstly, if we encourage more private sector to do the investment, create more jobs, create more revenue, and also pay more tax to the government, then the whole economy is getting back. When 1.4 billion people with a big workforce, if they get the money, they can spend. Then the domestic consumption can come back. And at the same time, we are very strong in the processing, manufacturing, and we are strong in export. And if we can encourage the export to other parts of the world, we get back foreign currency, and then the economy will be better. Therefore, it's so-called the internal circulation and the external circulation. If it's done, I think Chinese economy can come back quickly because, firstly, we have a big market, 1.4 billion people. Secondly, we have a very big manufacturing base, so-called the world factory in the world. Therefore, we are very competitive. And I just feel that if everything is come back to normal on the COVID side, and at the same time, government give us a very open, relaxed investment environment, go back to world market economy, I think our economy will come back very quickly.
Mm-hmm. And another factor, people are concerned with is like whether there will be a new wave of infection because, as we said, it is not over yet. There might be new strain, from other parts of the world or from any part of the world that might come up that might again prove to be impactful on our daily lives. I mean, how likely is that, maybe there will be new wave infection that somehow will again disrupt our life and work?
I don't know what will happen in the future, but now, for example, in the Western world or in Hong Kong, we just feel that we can live together with the virus already. But what's happening in the Chinese mainland at the moment, we don't know exactly. But we don't need really to guess. Just wait for 1 or 2 months. If everything is settled, then we live with the virus already, same as other parts of the world. Then, because our policy, most importantly is open COVID policy, not the same as before. And now we are same as other countries. Therefore, they should treat us equal. And if everything go back to normal, I think we don't need to worry. Because in Hong Kong, we don't worry anymore about the COVID cases.
Mm-hmm. It takes a couple of weeks and for people to adapt to the new reality.
Yes.
We are returning to the normal. Well,
I think we are in Hong Kong already. Hopefully, mainland we can get it done as soon as possible.
Yes. Thank you, Jonathan. Thank you for your time and insights. With that, we come to the end of today's discussion. Many thanks to Dr. Jonathan Choi Koon-shum, Chairman of Sanhua Group. You can also find us on the CGTN app on YouTube. I'm Xu Qinduo. Thanks for being with us. See you next time.